Hey everybody on TikTok. Today we're going to be talking about the VA renovation loan. I've got two cameras and I'm supposed to be looking at one, and this is going to be weird for me because normally they're closer together, but I had to change my setup. So bear with me. We're on YouTube, we're streaming on YouTube as well as TikTok. So we are here to answer questions today about the VA renovation loan. So usually we're talking about the one-time close, but we realize that a lot of people may or may not be interested in building right now. You might already own something that you are interested in renovating, and you can do that with the VA renovation loan. So you can actually use the VA renovation loan to purchase as well as refinance. So you can combine this with a purchase, you can combine this with a refinance. So we're going to kind of go through some of the details and specifics on the VA renovation loan. We'll talk about what that looks like and their qualifiers, and then we'll kind of get into some of the details. And as you guys know, this is a Q&A. So if you have questions while we're running, I've got moderators here that can answer your questions. So go ahead and ask your questions. We'd love to make this more interactive. That's the goal. And otherwise, thanks for being here. Okay. So the VA renovation, it's a single close loan. So when you combine the VA renovation with either a purchase or a refinance, what we're doing is we are getting bids from a contractor prior to closing. If it's a purchase, it's prior to closing. And the contractor, yes, they have to be VA approved. Getting VA approved is a super easy process. It's not very complicated. And so there are some forms that have to be filled out by the builder, and we have to submit them, or contractor. You can call them a builder or contractor, whatever you want to call them. It's basically your GC of record. They have to have a general contractor's license. And they're filling out the forms and getting those forms to us, and so we can get them approved with the VA. So the VA is going to approve them. Super simple process. It's not like going through the full approval process like you would for a construction loan for the one-time close, buy land, and build loan. This is much more simple because it's just some documents they have to sign that are VA required documents, okay? So the timeline on that should be, we get the builder the documents. As soon as we have the documents back, we submit that to the VA, and it takes a few days. It's not a super extensive process. Once the builder has the builder ID number, then they are approved with the VA. And the selling point for them is that they can go on to do other projects with veterans using, for VA financing, whether it's a new home build potentially or renovations. So that is, it does have to be a VA approved builder. And what happens is when you're using this on a refinance program, you're obviously living in the home, right? You own the home. It's a refinance. We'll talk about Texas because I know a lot of people have questions on Texas, and we're going to get into that. But because Texas is one of those states that limits your ability to refinance on a VA loan. They don't want homeowners doing cash out refinances. There's some rules in Texas that prohibit that when you have a government-backed loan, which is FHA VA. But we'll talk about, there's a Texas renovation refinance transaction, and those are permitted in Texas. I am working to get more specifics on those because, to be quite honestly, I haven't originated one yet, but I'm going to do the research, and I'm going to do another follow-up live specifically for the Texas renovation refinance when I actually get a hold of the investors on that program and can dig into it in further detail. So we will get you more information. If you are interested in the Texas renovation refinance, I need you to comment or send an email to VALoanbish.com, or excuse me, VALoanbish@VLGnow.com, or visit our website at VALoanbish.com. So there's multiple ways that you can get a hold of our team, and we just need to know that you're interested in learning more about that Texas renovation refinance, and we will get you invited to the next live that we do with that on there. So you're refinancing, and you want to take cash out so that you can pay for a remodel of your home. Okay, so what does that look like? First question, do I have to have equity in my home to do a renovation refinance? No, you do not. So you can have literally zero equity in your home, but you can still access the equity in your home, or you can still access the future equity that you're building by doing the remodeling. So how that works is you're interested in let's say you want to remodel your kitchen and you want to remodel your bathrooms. So what you're going to do is you are going to get with a contractor. You're going to find a general contractor. You're going to look for someone who has good reviews. So that's obviously very important. You want to make sure that you're working with someone who has a good reputation. So you're going to find someone that has good reviews. I'm sorry, I just have to look at TikTok. Haley, I know I'm supposed to be looking at YouTube, but I just can't do it. It's TikTok's right here, YouTube's here. So I'm just going to look at TikTok. So you're going to figure out what you want to remodel, whether it be your home, your bathrooms, your kitchen. You want to re-side the house. You want to re-roof the house. You want to add square footage. You want to move a load-bearing wall. Those things are allowed. And so what you're going to do is you're going to look for a contractor. You're going to get an idea of what the cost is going to be. Now, I'm not saying you need to finalize bids initially right off the bat, but you need to have a pretty good estimation of what the cost is going to be to do this renovation. Let's say you bought your house recently, you owe $300,000 on your house, and maybe you have like $5,000 in equity. Maybe your house is worth $305,000, and you want to do $50,000 worth of remodeling. Okay, you've reached out to contractors. That's how much they're telling you it's going to cost you $50,000. When you do that, what we do is we are going to look at the payoff of your mortgage, and then we're going to add the $50,000 remodeling cost on top of the payoff of your mortgage. There's a couple other things that have to be added. So there's what's called a contingency reserve. The contingency reserve is additional money added on top of your budget. In the event that you go over budget, you can dip into that contingency reserve. So the contingency reserve is 15% of the repair cost, not the total loan amount, but the repair cost. So if it's a $50,000, $50,000 repair cost, you're looking at what? 10% is $5,000, so $7,500 roughly. You're looking at $7,500 in a contingency reserve. So basically we're taking $50,000 plus $7,500. And then there's a couple other small fees for inspections and title work. So we're going to take that money, we're going to roll it on top of your mortgage, and we're going to do a refinance of your mortgage into a new loan. So you will have one mortgage, one VA mortgage with this VA renovation loan. Now, we do have a conventional renovation loan that is available as well if for some reason you can't use your VA, but this particular live is about VA loans, VA renovation refinances and purchases. So you're going to take that dollar amount. We're going to add the contingency reserve. We're going to add a couple of the inspection fees and the costs. And then you can also add your closing costs on top of that. And as long as our future appraised value, so what is the future appraised value? That is where we get the work bid sheet from the contractor, and we're going to submit that to the VA appraiser. The appraiser is going to complete an appraisal report based off of future appraised value. So as long as that appraisal report comes back in supporting, rolling in all of those things, the closing costs, the fees, the title fee, the inspection fee, and then the contingency reserve, then we are good to go, and you can move forward with all of those things financed into the transaction on a refinance. Okay, so this is essentially how the VA renovation works. Now, there are some intricacies of the program. Like, for instance, if you spend more than $50,000 on your repairs, then we are required to have a HUD compliance inspector also be a part of the transaction. A HUD compliance inspector is going to make sure that the work is being done in a workmanship manner. You know, they're going to make sure that the contractor is doing what they're supposed to be doing with the money that they are receiving in draws from the mortgage company. It's a good thing. There's an additional cost with a HUD compliance contractor or HUD compliance inspector. And so we just need to keep in mind that if you go over $50,000, there's going to be an additional member inspecting the property before a draw is released to the contractor. And in my opinion, I think it's a good thing. It's a slight additional cost to you, but it will be your CYA. It will cover your ass with your builder, making sure that your builder does what they're supposed to be doing and is using the money that we're releasing to them and completing the work the way they're supposed to complete the work. So it's a good thing, I think. I've actually purchased a home before with a 203K refinance, a 203K purchase. It's called a 203K rehab loan. And this particular house wouldn't qualify for FHA financing. And so we got a 203K loan. There was about $10,000 in repairs that needed to be done. So that's called a streamline renovation loan. And on this particular case, you can go up to $200,000 with the VA renovation loan. So you have to stay under the conforming loan limit, and that's the same as the VA county loan limit. So if you're looking at the VA county loan limit right now, in most counties across the country, it's $726,200. So you have to stay under that total amount, including your repairs. So if you're trying to get $200,000 out, you really need to be owing around $500,000. Now, there are some high-cost areas around the country where the VA county loan limit is higher, the conforming loan limit is higher, and you can go to that higher loan limit, but you can't go over that conforming loan limit for the market that you're in. If you have questions on that specifically, you can post your county and your state in the comments, and we can tell you what your county loan limit is for your renovation loan, for a VA renovation loan. So that is the refinance requirements. Now, the minimum credit score requirement, there is a minimum credit score requirement on this program, even though VA does not have a minimum credit score requirement for their regular VA purchase or refinances, because it's a unique loan program. Any specialty loan programs, that's where you're going to start seeing some overlays to the credit score requirement. So the VA renovation loan has a minimum of a 580 credit score. If you're below 580, you want to take advantage of this program, reach out to our team. We are happy to pull your credit and go through a what if simulator, which is where we run your credit report and we simulate as if you're paying off debts, or you're opening a new credit card, or you're doing things to reestablish your credit, potentially paying a collection off, removing a collection from your credit report. We can simulate what that would do to your credit score. So if you have questions on that, we are happy to answer your questions and kind of give you guidance and give you a plan so that you can work towards a VA renovation loan if that's what your ultimate goal is. Let's see, what else? If you go over $50,000, actually, if you exceed $200,000, there are exceptions. So you could potentially get more than $200,000 if you really want to do a big remodel project, but that will require an exception. Obviously, this can be used for a purchase as well. So how does that work on a purchase? It's very similar to a refinance with regards to the actual construction of the project and getting a contractor. All of those requirements are the same, whether you're purchasing or refinancing. So you have to have a contractor. It has to be GC. They have to be approved. You cannot be related to this GC or general contractor. You also cannot have ownership interest in the construction company. This is not an owner builder or an owner remodeler type of loan program. It's not a DIY loan program. If you want a DIY, you're probably better off looking into tapping into your home equity with a home equity line of credit, or a fixed home equity loan, fixed rate home equity loan, which could potentially be another option for you. We don't offer home equity lines of credit or home equity loans because, to be honest, I can't get you a competitive interest rate. So we would prefer that you get a competitive interest rate, and we don't want you wasting your money. It's not in your best interest. So that's why we don't offer them. So let's see here. On refinances, there is a seasoning requirement. We have to watch the seasoning requirement, which means you can't do this unless you have waited 210 days from closing on your VA transaction, and you had to have made at least 6 mortgage payments as well. So that will be a requirement with that. First payment due date of the refinance loan occurs no earlier than 210 days after the first payment due date of the initial loan. So I confused you. It's 210 days for the first payment due date of your purchase loan or your last loan that you took out. Like I said, there is a Texas renovation refinance transaction. You may not receive any cash back at closing with a Texas renovation refinance. So it just has to be any money, extra money goes towards the principal reduction. And honestly, that's the same on a non-Texas renovation refinance. Sorry, it's a mouthful. So if you are doing a refinance on a renovation, a VA renovation loan, that contingency reserve that goes on top of your repair budget, if you don't use that, it gets applied back towards the principal balance as a principal reduction. So you're not out that money if you don't use the money. It just gets applied after the work's completed and the final inspection's done. The lender will take that amount of money and apply it back towards your principal balance. So you get that money back, and it just ends up, being applied towards your principal balance. So this program is allowed on 1 unit and 2 units. It's also allowed on manufactured homes, and there's very few lenders that allow VA renovation loans on a manufactured home. So keep that in mind. It is a unique program. You cannot use this program for condominiums. Okay, so no condos. You can't do a VA renovation loan on a condo. Both the purchases and the refinances are going to be 100% loan to value. So with a purchase, what does that mean? Because when you buy a house, you're purchasing it at 100% loan to value when you're buying it with a VA loan. So again, they're going to go off of future appraised value. So when the appraisal is completed, it's completed based on your work having been completed. And how much does that change the value of the home? The remodeling that will increase your value the most and be the best investment for you is typically going to be adding square footage, updating kitchens and bathrooms. That's where you get the biggest bang for your buck in remodeling. And I was a real estate agent for years, so I know this to be true from being a real estate agent and actually listing homes and selling homes and working with buyers and hearing buyer feedback on what homes they're more interested in. So anytime you update kitchens and bathrooms, it has a higher likelihood of selling for a higher value. And then obviously square footage drives value massively. And that's why you look at like price per square foot calculations and things like that. So let's see, we talked about no high balance. We talked about the VA appraisal process and how that works. So everything's based off of future appraised value. There is a stipulation that if the condition of the property is in what's called a C5 or C6, meaning it's a really, really rough shape and it might not even be livable, you probably won't be able to use this program. The house has to be livable for you to use the VA renovation loan. And the reason for that is you're occupying the home while you're renovating it. So technically you're supposed to take occupancy on a VA loan within 60 days of closing. You have 9 months to complete the renovation on this program. So in that 9-month period of time, all the work has to be done. Well, you're supposed to be occupying the home. Now there's a period of time that you can be out of the house, but they don't want you to be out of the house for a very long period of time. You need to be able to occupy the property. There's no minimum rehab cost. You just have to look at, does it make sense to rehab? And if you're going to refinance and only spend $5,000, it probably doesn't make sense because it's going to cost you, there's other fees associated with refinancing. To go into that just a little bit, our lender fee, if you're a past client of ours, we waive our lender fee. If you're a new customer to us, we only have one fee and it's our lender fee. Otherwise, everything else is third party. It's going to be the appraisal, title, escrow, your settlement. And then if you're in some states that have intangible taxes or doc stamps or any taxes that you have to pay to close on a refinance, there will be that as well. Somebody's asking, what is the name of this program? This is a VA renovation loan. And I represent VLG. VLG is our mortgage company. It stands for Veterans Lending Group. Obviously, you can tell by that we specialize in VA loans. We are we're approved in 37 states across the country. My team can answer questions if you want to inquire about a specific state. We have moderators on here. They can answer your questions and go over the states that we are approved in. If you're looking at a state that we're not quite approved in yet, we can get you connected with VA specialists in that state that specialize in this program. So reach out, let us know. We'll make sure that we get you connected with someone who will take care of you and understands how to work with VA buyers and homeowners. I'm going to give you some examples of eligible structural alterations. So you can remove an interior load-bearing wall. A lot of the other VA renovation loans with other investors, they don't allow you to do that, but you can do that with our VA renovation loan. You can repair some structural components of the roof. Adding a second story or changing the elevation is not permitted. So they don't want you to basically change the trusses and open up the top of the house other than for the purpose of re-roofing the house. Sometimes you have to open up the house to re-roof the house if there's damage on the sheeting underneath the composition roof or underneath your roofing material. Sometimes you have to open it up to clean it out, let it dry out if there's been leaking or anything like that. Attached additions. Attached additions expanding the footprint of the home require a second level project review. So expect to have it take longer. That's the biggest thing is like anytime you need an exception, anytime there's a second level review, just expect it's going to take a little bit longer. The VA should not allow lenders to apply any type of overlays for veterans. I don't disagree with you. That's green _eyeball _Navy _vet. I think that's what that says. We don't disagree with you. And the fact of the matter is, mortgage companies are mitigating their risk. They have been burnt. Unfortunately, VA is not always super clear about what they will and won't guarantee. And when mortgage companies start taking hits, they end up overlaying certain programs. Our regular VA loans, we don't have overlays to our regular VA loans, but a VA renovation, a VA one-time close, those are higher risk loans. Most lenders are not even offering those programs, and especially not on the VA renovation loan up to $200,000. So it's just a higher risk loan. But we're with you on that. We would love for our veterans. It's a benefit, not a home loan program. However, from a business perspective, there is some risk in that. And I think these mortgage companies are just trying to keep their doors open, to be honest. But thanks for the feedback. We appreciate it. Repair installation, back to what you can do, eligible repairs. Repair installation of private water systems and wells. So you could repair a well or a private water system. Minor repairs to septic systems. So this won't allow you to completely replace the septic, but it will allow you to do some minor repairs to a septic. Recreational luxury improvements require a second level project review. We're not sure if that includes pools or not, and we're going to dig in on that. We know with this particular investor, pools are included in the one-time close for specific states, but we're going to actually get a little bit more detail on whether or not the pools are allowed. Green-eyed Navy vet. Oh, yeah, thanks. That makes sense. You know, when you're on the spot, not everything's always logical. So yeah, we're going to get some more information on the what's considered a recreational luxury improvement, and we'll do some follow-up videos on the TikTok just to follow this live. So if you guys aren't already following my TikTok, go ahead and follow my TikTok. We are also creating a Facebook page that's going to our community group on Facebook in case you're on Facebook and that's more convenient for you. Obviously, YouTube, you can post your questions and we'll answer your questions. We're just trying to give you guys more options to reach out to us and get into contact. So one thing to just kind of keep in mind, this is like the broad generalized statement, is that VA requires any alterations and repairs to be ordinarily found on similar properties of comparable value in the community. Basically what that means is the appraiser needs to find comparable sales. They need to be able to find comps to determine what is the value of this home. And if you did something really funky, or if you're trying to do something really funky, as far as a remodel, like build a tree house inside the house, you're going to have a hard time finding comps for that. So they're just trying to say, you know, there's going to be some generalized requirements there, but it's primarily based on the appraiser being able to find comparable sales so that we can come up with a value. And that's normal for any loan and any appraisal. So it's kind of like, duh. Okay, ineligible repairs. So let's go there. Oil tanks. To repair, remove, or remediate an oil tank is not allowed. Any repair or installation of private waste management, so lagoons, cesspools, pits, major repair or installation of a septic system, not allowed. Mold remediation is not allowed. I was kind of surprised to see that one, but mold remediation can become a nightmare because you don't always know what you're going to get once you open up the walls. And so I think that's probably why mold remediation is not allowed. Usually as a home buyer, you're going to want the seller to fix the mold issues before you actually close on the home. So that would be my recommendation to you. You don't want to buy something that hasn't been remediated properly. Purchasing an existing structure on another site and moving it to a new foundation. You cannot do that, which kind of makes sense. You know, you're basically moving an entire house. Although I could see where maybe you could get away with that with a $200,000 budget. It just has a lot of unknowns and a lot of potential risk. Any repair that prevents the borrower from occupying the property for more than 15 days during the renovation period. I lived through a huge renovation, and I remember one day we did pretty well with it. It was a 2-year renovation, and it increased our value substantially. We bought the house for like $315,000. It was on 10 acres, 9 point something acres in Graham, Washington. And we remodeled it ourselves. We DIY'd the shit out of that project. And it took us 2.5 solid years. My husband did the majority of the work. I will not take credit for much of that work, but I did lay flooring. I did tile bathrooms. I learned how to do a lot of tiling. I hung tongue and groove pine ceiling. We did painting. We did all kinds of things in that house. And it ended up being a beautiful home. And we made After the remodel, we made about $500,000 when we sold that house, income, like profit on the home, because we did so much of that work ourselves. Now, this particular program, again, you can't do the work yourself, but what you could do is you could do it more basic and then go in and do remodeling by updating and doing DIY work to some of the portions of the house that increase your value. And I will tell you, like, buying a home, if you're thinking about buying something that you could build equity into by purchasing something that will appreciate in value, look for houses that have unfinished basements, because converting a basement to finished square footage adds a lot of value as well. Now, your basement square footage won't be treated the same. You won't get the same price per square foot as you would above ground square footage. But if you have something that you can finish, and especially like there's a bathroom downstairs and the rest of I had a house that we bought like this as well. The house was the basement was totally unfinished, and we finished it and added an extra 1,000 square feet to the house. I think we made $250,000 on the sale of that home. So these are all things that you just have to buy smart and really think about what you're doing for a remodel, and consult with real estate agents. Even if you're remodeling and you're not trying to sell right now, consult with real estate agents or lenders to get some feedback about what makes sense and what you should put your money into as far as a renovation goes. Because you want to be doing stuff that you're going to be able to get money back out of it, and not like you put all this money and you dump all this money into like stupid expensive stuff that you can't ever get that money back. So any repair that is done as self-help is not eligible. And then again, the home must be habitable at the time of application. So you have to be able to live in the house. It can't just be completely wrecked. So again, if the renovation is greater than $50,000, you have to have a HUD compliance consultant or HUD consultant, 203K HUD consultant, to work the project with you, which again will save you heartache down the road. They kind of become a buddy. When we had our HUD compliance inspector, he became a buddy of ours, and he was looking out for our best interest, and he was making sure the contractors we were working with were doing things right. And he gave us advice and helped us figure out, better ways to do certain things on the project. So we appreciated that. Again, construction timelines, 9 months from closing. So you've got 9 months to finish the construction from the time that you close to the time that everything needs to be wrapped up and buttoned up. We talked about the contingency reserve, but if you weren't on here during that time, there is a contingency reserve. That means that has to be added. 15% of the repair budget has to be added on top of the repairs, so that there's money in the event that you go over budget, because that never happens with contractors. So that 15% is just to save your ass, so you don't have to pull money out of your pocket. And if it's not used, if you don't use it, then it gets applied back towards the principal balance. AFR allows, the investor that we work with allows up to 3 draws. So 3 draws during construction. The initial draw is 0. So that means that the builder, the contractor, has to be willing to start the project without receiving a draw from the mortgage company. So they have to have some funding to start the project. Once the first draw is requested and the inspection is completed, then they'll get a chunk of money. And then obviously they get paid once all the work is completed. There are inspections. You can get up to 3 inspections during the construction. It just depends on how big of a construction project. You might only need 1 inspection and 1 draw, but you might need 2 or 3, depending on what your project is. And you can only have 1 GC, 1 contractor. You cannot use this program in Hawaii. Sorry, Hawaii. I know there's a lot of funky things there. If we're using this program in Texas, then for Texas transactions, we have to use a Texas attorney, which is normal. And that's kind of the gist of this. So what questions do we have? What about releveling a second floor? That would be a good question. That's a unique one. I guess I need to know what goes into releveling a second floor. You're not changing the elevation. You're not adding a second floor. So to me, it doesn't specifically state you can't relevel it, but it is one of those things we probably would want to call and double check and get a little more detail from you. And then we can research it and figure out if the underwriters are okay with that particular situation. Okay, what's the name of the program? Again, this is the VA renovation, and you can use it as a renovation purchase or a renovation refinance. So it's a VA renovation loan. Essentially, that is what this is called. It's for military families who you don't have to have currently, you don't have to be using your VA loan on the property. You can refinance it into a VA loan. But most people typically have a VA loan already and are using this. Now, you can use it as a purchase again. And the way that works is you're going to have to ask for an extended closing date. Don't try and write a contract with a 30-day close and try to do a VA renovation loan, okay? Because a VA renovation loan is going to take you time. You got to get the contractor approved with the VA if they're not already approved. You have to get the contractor to give you bids back. And you guys know how that goes, right? Contractors providing bids, not always immediate. So it's going to take a little while to get bids back. So give yourself time. I would say minimum get a 60-day close on a VA renovation purchase. Maybe a 45-day close if everything's put together and it's not a super big project. It's a simple project, then a 45-day close should be enough time. But these things are a little bit more cumbersome, and especially if you have to get a 203K consultant involved, if you're going over $50,000, I would say ask for a 60-day close. The work happens after you close, right? So none of the work is completed prior to closing. So be prepared that you're going to live in the house while it's being worked on. So if they're remodeling the kitchen, be prepared that they're going to be working on the house while you're living there. Some tips and tricks that I learned while we were living through a remodel, we ended up finishing one of the bathrooms first so that we could use it as our kitchen while our kitchen was being remodeled. If you have RVs, you guys are fire service or active duty, you're used to cooking outside. So you could set up a camp outside and have your kitchen and everything outside. Ideal would be summertime, obviously, so you can be outside cooking and doing other things if you're remodeling a kitchen. That was another thing we did. We had our camping stove. Don't use that inside. We had our camping stove that we would cook on. And then obviously we got a lot to go for a long time. We learned a lot. There was a lot that we learned. In looking at the resale value of the home, we looked at spending our money and adding square footage, spending our money and remodeling the kitchens and the bathrooms and not spending as much on the rest of the home. But, there's always tips and tricks. I love houzz.com for its aesthetics and researching ideas. So houzz.com. I use that a ton when I was looking at planning the interior of the remodel, looking at kitchen ideas and cabinets and, granite countertops, flooring, hardware fixtures. Obviously, there's lots of DIY channels you can stream. There's now TikTok you can go on and look at all kinds of home views and tours you can see. Obviously, there's Pinterest. So that's where I spent most of my time in looking at the remodels. But remodeling was, a couple. We've remodeled, I think, 4 or 5 homes and that we've lived in. And then we've remodeled a couple that we just rented out. And, it's a really good way to invest in real estate and get a return on your investment. And obviously, you're updating the house. You can depreciate some of those updates, especially if it's on an investment property. Talk to your accountant. I am not a CPA. I'm not an accountant, and I'm not trying to give you advice, just some ideas to look into. I'm looking to put in a built-in closet in our master and turn this little room into a giant pantry. Yeah, like that would be a very easy, make sense remodel. And in some of these cases, you guys, we might look at your remodel project. If it's kind of a lesser expensive remodel project and you're sitting with a 2.5% or 3% interest rate or a 3.5% interest rate, we might look at that and say, you know what, do you have equity in your home? Let's tap into the equity in your home. And then we can refinance it when rates come back down. Or in the case, if you refinance now into a VA renovation loan, if you haven't purchased or refinanced your home within the last year and a half, you probably have a lower interest rate than current market interest rate. So we are expecting rates to come back down, and you would be able to refinance this using an IRRL, an interest rate reduction refinance loan, after you use this VA renovation loan to remodel. So let's say you use this VA renovation loan to remodel, you get your remodel project done, 9 months down the road, rates drop, you can do a VA interest rate reduction refinance loan, which is typically no money out of pocket, and it's, the closing costs are rolled back into the loan amount. And I say that not to continue to refinance you and add costs or expense to your loan, but if your interest rates are dropping by 1%, 2%, 3% in rate, Then we look at that break even. We look at the cost it takes to refinance. There's a lot of different things that we can look at, but we will analyze that with you and make sure it makes sense. We are not one of those lenders that's just here to make money off of you and refinance you over and over again. But I get a lot of questions on this program, and we wanted to make sure that you guys knew that this was out there and it's an option. So appreciative of you helping get me my home 2 years ago. That's awesome. Thank you. We're so appreciative of you guys. I mean, honestly, we've been loving having a forum on TikTok to be able to bring this information. We've been teaching VA home loan boot camp classes to our military community for 12 years now. And this is something that we're super passionate about. It's just the education. And with COVID, our education shifted from live in person to online. So this gives us the ability, I mean, obviously I'm in my dining room right now, my home office, and I have the ability to teach you guys all this information from home and make sure that you have the right information to protect yourself and be your own advocate, because unfortunately there's a shit ton of misinformation out there. You guys see it. I've got my bullshit bulletin. I call out other lenders for saying stupid shit, for directing our military families in the wrong way. It happens all the time. And we're really here just to provide the information, say, hey, here's this program. It's available to you. Use it or don't use it. It doesn't matter to us. We just want to make sure you have the information and you know that we're a resource if you need us. Additions require second level reviews. That's correct. That's Ashley on my team answering those questions. I've got Haley on here. Builder wants me to put $20,000 down for a new build, $480,000 for his projected, he said. That's one of those situations, like if you have a builder or a real estate agent or somebody telling you that you need to do something and it doesn't sound right, get us involved. Even if you don't finance with us, we're okay to just be a team member of yours and get involved in having these conversations with the builders and real estate agents and setting people straight, because there's a lot of that needs to be done. And we're really good at it. And we will have the guidelines. We will have the information to present to them. If a builder wants you to put $20,000 down for a new build, if you're talking about like a one-time close, custom construction, buy land and build, then we can structure it as a deposit. So if you have the ability to get the money and the builder's just adamant, like I need this deposit before I even start construction, we can structure that as a deposit, meaning you get that money back when we fund the loan. And we're funding the loan, when we're talking about the VA one-time close, we're funding the loan before the construction actually starts. So there are ways to work with that. If you have put money down as a deposit, you don't lose that money unless the loan has to be structured that way for some reason, like debt to income ratio or whatever. But we can absolutely help with that. With a renovation loan, can you build an add-on or add-on space? Yes, you can do that. It just requires an exception or second level review. We are based in the Panhandle of Florida, yes, but we are lending all over the country. So we're actively doing loans in, I don't know how many states, but our company, VLG, we're licensed in 36, 37 states now. And we're able to assist in all those states. And then if for some reason we're not approved or licensed in your state, we will make sure that we get you connected with someone who is. The official website is valoanbish.com. So our page, valoanbish.com. That's where you can go to apply if you want to apply, or just get in contact if you have more questions and you want to talk to our team and get your questions answered, your specific questions answered. Let's see. Am I missing anything? Need to do the crawl space, the electrical. Yes, you can do crawl space. You can do electrical. Yeah, a lot of veterans get burned. You're right, green-eyed Navy vet. A lot of veterans get screwed over. And that is one of the reasons why we started doing the education, because unfortunately you're going to get a different answer, and you even get a different answer from your commanding officers, and they don't know, and it's not their fault. I can't tell you how many colonels and sergeant majors, command sergeant majors, tech sergeants, like it doesn't matter what the rank is. We have had so many people sit through our education and go like, oh, I wish I would have known that. I didn't know that. And when you don't know it, you pass on wrong information, unfortunately, unknowingly, to people that serve, your subordinates or people that are serving with you. So there's a lot of wrong information. It's one of the reasons why I think the statistic is now less than 17%, or only 17% of our military community has used their VA home loan benefit. And it's because so much misinformation. And you know how that goes. You go and you ask questions, you get ping-ponged all around, you get told that you don't qualify for whatever reason. Your debt to income ratio, you have too much debt, your income's not high enough, your credit score is not high enough, you have bad credit, your divorce decree, you had a foreclosure or short sale with your VA loan, so you don't qualify. Like All of this shit. We hear it all the time. We have had people literally like liquidate their TSP because they were told they needed that money as a down payment from one of the biggest VA lenders in the country. Gave them this information. They liquidated their $70,000 for a TSP, and we got them, and we're like, oh my God, you only needed $12,000 down, not $70,000 down. So there's just massive misinformation out there, and our job is to be here to educate, to make sure you have the correct information, to hopefully protect you from getting screwed. We are not based in Georgia, but we are lending in Georgia. We are approved in Georgia, so we're really close, but we're in Fort Walton, Destin area. So let's see here. The VA should not allow lenders yet. We talked about that. Can I get some information on the state of Arizona? Absolutely. The team will reach out. We are approved and licensed in Indiana. Yes, in North Carolina. I mean, real quickly, actually, I might be able to give you a roll call of all the states that we're lending in because I get this updated report every day from my team. And since I have my computer right here, let's go through. Hold on. Hold, please. Awkward silence. Clearly, I'm getting a lot of emails about licensing because we're constantly working on licensing. License states, maybe. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to go through a roll call of all the states that we are lending in. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, Connecticut, District of Columbia, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky. I feel like this should turn into a song. Louisiana, Maine, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, New Hampshire, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, Washington, and Wisconsin. If we didn't name your state, California is coming. I'm so tired of saying that. California, get off your ass. We need you to get our license through. Actually, California, we should have this week, next week. We have been waiting for now 8+ weeks for our California license. So we should have that any day now. But we do have lenders, partners that are approved in all those other states. So if you need help in any one of those other states, let us know. I am seeing people are already completing loan applications. I just got a notification. And that's what happens when you complete a loan application or you start one. We get notified immediately that you have started an application. Now, usually after these lives, we get a little bit busy because we get so many people that are inquiring, they're reaching out, they're asking questions, they want to talk. So just hang tight, make sure that be patient with us. Our team will reach out to you. If for some reason you don't hear from someone for 1 or 2 days, ping me. You can DM me. You can go to the link in our bio. You can email us at valoanbish@vlgnow.com. You can visit the website, valoanbish.com. Just reach out and we will make sure that we get somebody connected with you to answer all your questions. Using my VA builder for a new home wanted me to put the money down. Oh yeah, we talked about that. Can we refinance 2 VA loans to conventional and try to get a new VA loan for the one-time close? Oh, that's a good question. And actually, that's a good question for this loan. So this VA renovation loan will use your entitlement for your VA loan. So if you have multiple VA loans, we're going to have to look at how much entitlement you have available. And this is why we pull your certificate of eligibility. It's to calculate how much entitlement you have available. So we will do that for you. Now, if you have 2 VA loans and you want to refinance them both to conventional, you can only request the one-time restoration one time. So unfortunately, we can restore one of your VA loans, but we will not be able to fully restore both. You would have to sell one and refinance the other and do a one-time restoration to get enough entitlement, potentially if you needed all of that entitlement back. You don't always need all of the entitlement back. And so that depends on how high you're going for your purchase price. And we can run those numbers for you. I'm going to put some math scenarios up this week to kind of explain entitlement, how it's calculated, how the VA loan limit affects entitlement, or how entitlement is affected by the VA loan limit. So I'm going to go into some of those. I'll do some videos this week that kind of cover some of that math, which is super boring, but it's necessary to understand how you can leverage your benefit. And then another thing that I'm learning is buying apartment complexes and multifamily, because my goal for you guys is for you to start with single family homes, move into multifamily, 2, 3, 4 units, or start with a 2, 3, 4 unit and build if you're looking to build your financial portfolio through rental properties, look at moving up. You start with single family, you move to multifamily, you move to apartment complexes. Anything over 4 units is considered commercial. But if you have really good credit, and you don't necessarily have to have the income, because when you're buying multifamily, they're looking at the debt service load on that particular property, and are the rents going to offset the mortgage payment? And yes, there's some risk involved, but there are a lot of veterans that are getting involved in the multifamily space to build wealth through real estate, to create passive residual income that just keeps returning. And so I'm going to be working on that. I'm going to be purchasing a multifamily of some sort this year myself, because I need to. Honestly, it's one of those things that you should be looking at, and you should be thinking about your future, your retirement. I know a lot of you guys get retirement. A lot of you, if you retire out of the military, you get retirement. A lot of times you also get your disability compensation. And so you make good money, and then sometimes you still go back to work. And this is just a very creative way to look at, if you're interested in real estate, if you really love real estate, if you want to become a real estate agent, let us know, reach out, because we have VA specialty real estate teams all across the country that are interested in hiring prior service spouses, people that want to work with military families. So also on the VA loan side, we are always looking for loan officers. So if you are an existing loan officer, if you specialize in VA loans, if you're a military spouse that's a loan officer, if you're prior service, or you just really love working with military, reach out to us. We do have locations all across the country, and we are happy to hire, really good people who are just wanting to get out there and help more. So I think we answered all your questions for this evening. Again, I will get some mathing posts out this week. VA ag, like purchasing land for farming and ranching. VA has some flexibility on this, but you can't be purchasing it specifically just for commercial purposes. You have to be living in it. There is some flexibility about farming and ranching on your property. So I think it kind of depends on how many acres. It depends on how big is the project. Are you going to make sure that you're going to owner occupy it? Because in order to use the VA loan, you need to owner occupy it. But we can absolutely talk with you more about this. You can absolutely purchase agriculture or farmland using your VA loan. As long as there's a house attached to it, there's no limit on the amount of acreage that you can buy using a VA loan. So we've seen a lot of people do that, purchase land that they can turn into a homestead, or they can turn into a farm, or turn into a ranch. If it's an existing ranch, if it's an existing farm and it's in a business and you're purchasing that as a business, that's where we need to dig in with you. We need to understand more before we say a blanket answer doesn't always work. And I hate to be gray, but sometimes these things are in the gray area, and we need more details and more information, because we don't want to set you up for failure. And I don't want to have to take backseas. I hate taking backseas when it comes to loan approvals. We don't do that. When we pre-approve you, you're going to be able to close on your loan. So I think that's it for today. Thank you guys for attending. VA renovation, refinance, and purchase. We will get you more information about that Texas renovation refinance and post more stuff. Like I said, follow the page and share it with any friends that you know that might be looking for the same information, because we're just here to help. So thank you guys. Enjoy your night, and invest